Okay, now we create value fields. Once again, COPA table looks like this, and it has characteristics and value fields. Value fields typically are quantity and sales and cost of goods sold. Of course, this is a simplified model. Okay, now we look into the value fields transaction. Of course, this is profitability analysis. Structures and value fields. This is my opinion. Sample operating concern. We do not recommend this sample operating concern. It only creates the garbage value fields and characteristics. Okay, now we look into the value fields transaction. You see the T code is transaction code is KEA6. So if you use the sample operating concern, it will only create these KW or KM table fields that we do not know if we can use it or not, because this is very specific to the flight solution, the airline business. What SAP guys are thinking. This is not the model that can be used for any business model. So we do not recommend this sample. And there are some standard fields that standard delivery has. You see that doesn't start from this KW, like MATGF, MATGP, and my aim is to use these usual value fields, database fields. Raw materials, of course, we can always use this. And VLPRS. In fact, this says stock value, but this will be the cost of sales or cost of goods sold, which is we usually assign this to condition types, PS or something. These are the usual value fields. Of course, we should not forget about the sales quantity and the sales revenue amount. It seems like the necessary value fields are already there. So these are the value fields for typical basic models like ALOS or VLPLS, ABSMG. These value fields are already there. We usually set up condition types to COPA, but there are some fields I would like to add manually, like FKLMG. This is build amount, build quantity in a stock keeping unit, or the purchase price variance fields. The name can be anything. Also, if you want to send the cost estimate, the cost component from production costing, we can use these value fields. There could be some mismatch, and you should check the cost component structure, OKTZ. Today we know there is what is the maximum number of the activity types. We know this is we can have 6 activity types max. In that case, because activity types usually can have variable cost and fixed cost, that means 6 activity types. We may need to have 12 value fields. Technically this is possible, and as I wrote here, it is highly recommended. Once you compile the generate operating concern, and once you go live, it is very difficult to add or modify this operating concern, because it causes the sales order error. It has to be always the compiling or generating operating concern instruction always has to be completed. We should not keep the operating concern as a red light. Otherwise, the sales order will fail. So it's always recommended you have a spare value fields or value already once you set up the operating concern. But again, I'm gonna explain what this OKTZ look like. Whenever you set up a value fields, you should be also aware of the cost component structure. Cost component structure is all, of course, it's under product cost controlling and product cost planning, basic settings for material costing, and define cost component structure. You should, if you are to send a cost estimate, I think you should be aware of the cost component structure. As I was mentioning, there is some mismatch. Personnel time, I think this is the manufacturing cost, and machine time, we don't have equivalent value fields. Setup time, we have value field, and the direct material and the material overhead. But overhead also we can using a costing sheet, fixed cost and variable cost is also possible. And the production overhead, now the problem is production overhead. We know this STCP is not the right field, but we don't know the meaning. I am using this for overhead. So all we know is machine time is we don't have the value field. And as I mentioned, we can have max 6 activity types. So if you want to create these value fields, I think you can do it this timing. I can show how it works. I mean, the setups, it is based on the work center. If you can assign activity types in the work center, and there is the place you can have 6 activity types, and work center, there is a setting called standard value, and if you set up this standard value key, then this is assigned to a work center structure, and it decides how many parameters or activity types you can hold. In this particular case, it has a 6 entry here, and this will be the fields you can assign activity types. And once you have 6 activity types in the work center, you also need to assign the cost elements for each activity types. That is under cost center accounting. Cost center accounting, and it's under planning, allocations, activity allocations, splitting. These are what we call all what's the transaction code? You set up these transaction codes, KES and OKEW. What you do is OKES, you set up a rules which to be assigned to a cost element, and the next transaction OKEW, you assign this rule to the cost centers. In this way you can have a max 6 activity types, but I'm only mentioning the technical capability. And if you are to decide sending a cost estimate to COPA, you have to do this configuration. Costing key, set up a costing key and assign costing key to any characteristic in KEPC, K4R. I have already explained in movie. Okay, but yeah, I would like to stick to this basic structure. Okay, now what we are going to do is just creating this couple of value fields. Subcontracting. Yes. This time there's no standard table that we can refer to. Then we have to, well, we hoped at least this SKU, we wanted to use the standard name, not VB or WW, but it seems we cannot, we don't have this field. Let's see, field name must begin with VB. This is a field in billing table, so we have to put WV. This is a quantity, and don't forget the quantity. Save and activate. Next one, this is purchase price variance. Save and activate. And subcontracting. Save and activate. Okay, let us check the fields we defined there. These are the fields we have defined. So the system has automatically generated the data element. So this is it to set up a body fields. Well, there's a couple more argument topic we should discuss. The body fields. If you want to settle the production cost variance based on this variance category, I think if you are from a product costing, there's this variance analysis, and that is calculating variance. Of course, that all depends on the variance category setting. If you want to calculate separately or all together. And I got these old value field names from the old material, so I'm sharing this here. Sorry, but the behavior, what this does is, if you settle the production or the production cost variance, the record type will be C, but the total amount will also be settled with the record type B, and record type B requires FI account assignment. So KEA1 needs to be set up, and since this will be duplicated, the body field has to be separated, otherwise the amount will be doubled. That's the first point we have to make. You have to be careful. You need to separate the body fields to settle this variance. Also, today we have a material ledger, but if you activate actual costing using material ledger, you won't need this production variance settlement, because what a material ledger actual costing does is it's appropriate, distribute the variance, especially production variance and production and purchase price variance, to each suitable materials or cost of goods sold. So there will be no variance remained. There will be no variance. So this settlement by a variance category will be obsolete. There's no point doing this. That's the second point I need to make right now. You should be aware. But there are some projects they want to do this variance settlement even though they have actual costing. That doesn't make sense. And there's the third point is this actual costing or the material ledger. As far as you have the purchased goods or the production goods that has a price variance in the stock, it also the purchase price variance or production cost variance are also appropriated onto this remained stock, and this will also come to COPA, and every month this purchase price variance or price variance comes to COPA for the remained stock. The amount or the record of this roll forward or the variance is really big, and this is the drawback. In my understanding, this is the drawback of a material ledger. So this is the third point I want to make. I think you should be aware of these drawbacks. Okay, this is about it for creating characteristics. The next steps, of course, you have to do the operating concern generation by KEA0 and do the SD condition type assignment to COP value fields or costing key if you want to send the cost estimate to PA or the other things, KEPC, KE4R. Well, I have already uploaded the movie. So that's it. Thanks for watching.